You're listening to Radio Olive 106.3 FM. This is Tanisha with you. And on this World Book Day, I am here with someone who has written so many books, who has won so many awards, and she's constantly changing the way we think about books, that you will feel sleepy when you read a book, but no, not anymore. I'm here with Dr. Devika Rangachari. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, Tanisha.
How are you feeling today?
Very nice. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this Radio Olive show, and I'm looking forward to sharing my little bit of my journey and some tips about reading to the audience.
Definitely. We are also looking forward to know how you got into this, history के बारे में लिखना बच्चों के लिए, that too in a very fun and creative storytelling way. That was really fascinating for me when I read about that. Walk me through that. How did you came to this idea? कैसे ये idea आया आपको कि मुझे ये करना चाहिए?
So, when I was in school, I began to read historical fiction. मतलब सबके टेक्स्ट बुक्स बोरिंग होते हैं शुरू में, बट विच इज़ नॉट द फॉल्ट ऑफ द टेक्स्ट बुक राइटर, बट वो करिकुलम के हिसाब से वो लिखते हैं, सो दे कांट बी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग व्हेन दे गोइंग अबाउट इट. सो आई स्टार्टेड रीडिंग हिस्टोरिकल फिक्शन, विच मीन्स स्टोरीज अबाउट हिस्ट्री, about a historical person, a historical period, some part of the past, anywhere in the world. I started reading English history, Egyptian history,
wow,
all sorts of different kinds of history, and that's how I realized very early on that history is basically a story, and if you like to read, you will definitely like history. So
wow.
It's fascinating. It has everything to do with what you were, because you've inherited that legacy, and it also has a lot to do with what's going to happen in the future. And the history is so alive despite dealing with dead people, as it were. And so how I came to write about history is I was always writing for different age groups, but it's when I did my doctoral and my postdoctoral research on women who've been written out of history, because history is usually his story, not her story. And I realized that I needed to put these remarkable women back into history where they belong. That's how I started writing historical fiction for young adults. I've also written some historical fiction for middle graders, and I also write accessible history, easy to read history for grown-ups.
Wow, that's a good one for me. Well, when you were talking about history and writing it, I could see the happiness on your face. I could see how much you love that. So have you been reading since childhood and thinking about that I want to be a writer?
So I never knew I was going to be a writer. I was a reader, a voracious reader. मैं बस पूरा दिन पढ़ती रहती थी. I mean, of course, I was a good student as well, but I would finish my work quickly and just get back to books. And I read. I still read. I'm, in fact, more a reader than a writer, I would say. So I never really knew. As a child in school, I was a little shy. I wasn't very sure what I was going to do when I grew up. As a lot of children feel these days, सब पूछते हैं कि क्या बनोगे बड़े होके, and you never know the answer. So I was one of those children. But then I realized that I liked history and English, and so I started writing books when I was in my college years, and then I was doing it all alongside my studies, and then eventually I managed to bring my two favorite subjects together, English and history, by writing historical fiction and non-fiction as well.
That's great. Okay, so far जो मैंने सुना है, पढ़ा है और देखा है, सब कहते हैं कि राइटर्स का अपना एक तरीका होता है. इफ़ दे आर राइटिंग समथिंग न्यू, दे वांट टू गो इनटू दैट पर्टिकुलर रूम ओनली, या फिर एक पर्टिकुलर कंट्री में जाएंगे, या फिर एक डायरी में ही लिखना है. So is there anything with you? What's your process?
I think ये सब it's an illusion. It's a kind of a very well made up story कि writers का कोई एक बहुत ही ideal जगह होनी चाहिए where it's very quiet, कोई disturbance नहीं है, and then they can think and the ideas will flow. Reality में it's not really like that.
Okay.
जहाँ मतलब टाइम मिलता है, जहाँ जगह मिलती है, वहीं पे बैठ के you have to write. And I in fact cannot write if it's too quiet. you know, if it's like if there's no one around me and I need the noise of the household, कोई जा रहा है कुछ कह रहा है कुछ whatever, वो आवाज़ें मेरे पीछे से, so that's when I can actually write. And I think I speak for a lot of my writer friends that okay, they might have a room or a particular desk and whatever, but it's very rarely that you'll go all the way to some special corner or you go to a beach and you sit and write. वहाँ पे लगेगा कि enjoy करो, writing क्यों करें? So I think you have deadlines, you have to write something and you just do it.
And what if you have a writer's block? What do you do?
So writer's block, I think is something that it's a big myth. Yeah, actually reality mein it's not, it doesn't really happen. It's like, I will give you this example because I hope there are some young people listening to the show. Supposing you're writing an exam and you have to write on a particular essay topic, you have to write a paragraph on something, and you have 3 options. You can't then say कि नहीं अब मैं बैठ के सोचूंगी, अब मैं you know writer's block है, अब मेरे ideas नहीं आ रहे हैं, बाद में लिखूंगी, and ये सब you can't because you have to write, वो time limit है और you force your brain to work. Totally. That's pretty much how a writer writes. Okay, there might be times when कोई idea नहीं है, you know, the writing, you're struggling a bit with it, but then our brain is wonderful कि उसको force करो to work and it will work. It will always deliver. Wow. So you just have to just get past that feeling कि oh my god, now I will just relax. You don't have the luxury. You usually have a limited time in which to write something, and you can spend some time thinking about it, but you have to write. I mean, you can't just, your publishers are not going to be so patient with you कि अच्छा मैं 2 साल बाद दूंगी क्योंकि मेरे पास ideas नहीं है, writer's block है, ये सब नहीं होता है. So you just have to write.
So that was a fake excuse.
I think so. Maybe others may disagree with me, but I really think that this does not exist.
Okay, so tell me, how do you decide which character to bring from history and bring it to life in your books?
So most of my books for young adults, particularly the historical fiction, is based on my doctoral and postdoctoral studies in history, which is basically from the 7th to 12th century CE, what is called the late ancient or early medieval period, in North India and East India and now South India. It's where these very remarkable women were very important in polity, society, religion, economy, everywhere. But because history writing is male centered, it's all about the men. So very often these women are just removed from the narrative and you will not know that they were there to begin with. Indeed. So I choose all these. I mean, I have written what is called my Queen series, Queen of Ice on a Queen of Kashmir, Queen of Earth on a Queen of Odisha, and Queen of Fire, of course, on a very well-known figure, Rani Lakshmibai. And all these women are stereotyped in different ways, made invisible in different ways. So my idea is to put them back into history so that those who read it will know कि अच्छा, actually ये लोग exist करते थे, they were important part of our past, we should know about them.
Exactly, and it gives me food for thought कि क्यों हिस्ट्री में अभी तक सिर्फ men के बारे में ही बात हुई है. There have been so many women who have done things you can't even think about.
It's not just Indian history, it's everywhere in the world. This gender bias is there everywhere in the world, and it's not just history, it's in every subject you can think of, mathematics, music, art, everywhere. You mainly hear about the men.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that brings me to my next question. Do you really think that writing about these things and these queens will bring some change in gender equality or social justice?
I definitely hope so. I definitely think so, because you have to know about your past in order to understand who you are in the present and to move on in the future. So, and if you read about these kind of women who are very powerful, who are making huge changes in the society and polity and economy, and who really contributed hugely to the past in different periods of time, you will develop respect for women for their contributions as well. And you will know that history is not just 100% about the men, it's 50% men, 50% women, and you cannot ignore that fact. Totally. And therefore, if you have that respect inculcated for women of the past, you will definitely have respect for women in the present, which is something we are lacking, because when you're a child in school and you're only reading about the men, you have this feeling कि अच्छा ये तो men ही important है, उन्होंने सब कुछ किया था पहले, women is just basically they wore these clothes and they wore jewelry और घर पे बैठे रहते थे. That's completely wrong. So once you know how important they were, then you will develop this respect for them, and it will translate into how you treat women around you in the present day and moving forward. So of course that'll help hugely with gender equality, with social justice, a lot of other things.
That I really hope that it does, and more people read your books, because it's really interesting.
Thank you.
And tell me one thing, why kids need to read? First of all, I want to know this.
That is a question which I can answer perhaps for the entire day, but I will keep it short. Because reading is everything.
Mm-hmm.
It will make your life if you read. Because, once you read, whether you like it or not, you will automatically do well in every other sphere of your life, be it any subject you're studying, the way you interact with people in society, the way you talk, the way you express yourself, your understanding, the broadening of your horizons in your brain, everything. In fact, in Hindi there's this thing like sarv gun sampann. You read, you will become that.
Oh, wow.
So that is my firm belief, and so I think that parents should understand this right from the beginning, that if you actually encourage your child to read from the beginning, and that means even before the child knows the alphabet, if you make that a lifelong activity, you will really not need to worry about where your child is going to end up in life, because whether you like it or not, whether the child is conscious of it or not, he or she will automatically do well in whatever sphere they choose to do.
Wow. But in today's time, if you see, kids are more into social media. They don't even go out to play. So reading is like far-fetched thing. What do you suggest parents to do?
Readers have always been in a minority. Even when I was growing up, then there was this whole thing of, oh my god, video games are coming, oh my god, computers are coming, what's going to happen? So there's always this fascination ki, acha ye ho gaya, now let's do this instead, let's not read. But sooner or later you do get back to it. You get back to reading. I think parents have to understand that this is something that they have to do with their children. ये नहीं कहना कि मैं TV देख रही हूँ, अब now तुम जाके पढ़ो. That's not going to happen. You have to lead by example. You want your child to do something, you have to do it yourself. So you have to make reading a family activity, something that you show the child that they can derive pleasure from. ये नहीं कि किताब उठा के बोलो कि read this, you will improve your vocabulary, you will learn about the world, you will kind of be able to write your essays better. Yes, you will definitely be able to do all that, but it's done in such a beautiful, painless way that you don't have to say it कि ये होगा, ये करो. And you should spend time with the child reading. You should take your child to libraries, to bookshops, make them aware that this is something that's going to really change their life, improve their quality of life, expand their brains. All this talk about, oh my god, how do we improve our children's brain, our IQ? If you read, not only your IQ will improve, but your EQ as well, your emotional quotient, which is another very important thing. So it's actually going to develop you as an all-round personality, and it's never too late to start.
Indeed. This thing you said, lead with example. I noticed something. I have a nephew. He's 6.5 years old, and he wants to do everything I'm doing. Like if I'm coloring a book, he will come. He also wants to. Once I was reading a novel, he was like, I also want to read Bua. Give it to me. I'm like, but you won't understand, sir. That's when I thought, okay, we keep using our phones all the time in front of him. So obviously he's gonna catch that.
And actually, if you look at it scientifically, it's been proved that not just in terms of if you want to expand your gray cells or your brains, reading is the best activity, and it's also surprisingly the most relaxing activity for in between exams. Sometimes parents say कि अब don't read anymore, अब कोई वो नहीं है, no story books you have to study. Actually, if you read to relax, it actually relaxes your brain much more than if your child is taking a break looking at the computer or looking at the TV or looking at something else. It's been scientifically proven. So, and there are lots of scientific facts that actually show you how important reading is. Wow. So you don't have to take my word for it. जाके net पे जाओ, आप जाके पता करो. It's all there for you to see.
Wow. So, what's the next book you're working on?
So the next book is another. I have two books actually out. One is for young adults. It's another one in the Queen series. It is called Queen of Water, and it will be on another very important person in South India, in the dynasty of the Cholas, who was actually whose brother was a very well-known ruler, but she was actually the power behind the throne, the one who made him what he was. So that's going to be out very soon. So I hope you all get to read that as well. And I'm also going to be writing a book on for grown-ups, accessible history, that is history which is pleasant, not dry to read, but something very engaging. This will be about women in ancient and early medieval Kashmir who had a very, very huge role to play in every part of that time, but who've again been removed from history. So I'm putting them back into history where they belong.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Well, who's your favorite author?
This is a question that normally I dread answering क्योंकि इसका मैं जवाब दे भी नहीं सकती मतलब I'll be sitting here for the next 10 days just thinking, because I'm the kind of person कि एक कोई किताब मिल गया तो I'll be like, oh my god, this is wonderful, this is on my top 10 list, and I'll read something else and I say this is also on my top 10 list. So I have about 5,000 books on my top 10 list.
My god.
But there's so many authors I admired, and I read so much. I still read a lot, so I can't really. Do you actually want me to like pinpoint?
If you can, if not, no problem. I just wanted to know because you have been writing since so long and such amazing work you're doing. There must be some inspiration or somebody.
So I'm going to talk about maybe books for children, not so much for adults, because grown-ups can go and find their books. And also, by the way, in Qatar here, you have the absolutely fabulous Qatar National Library, where you should totally go and spend all your spare time in. They have such a wonderful range of books for all age groups. My books are there too, in case you're looking for them. So I would say one of the most delightful books for young children these days is a book called Moin and the Monster by Anushka Ravishankar. Okay. She's a very, very brilliant and prolific writer. And this book is delightful because it's about how this little boy called Moin one day discovers that there's a monster under his bed. So that's something all of us have dealt with when you're growing up. Ki kuch bed ke niche kuch hai, and particularly at night you feel kuch hai, awaaz aa rahi. So it's so funny. I mean, it's a lovely book. I think even, in fact, I would say a good book has no age group slotted to it. Anybody can read it. Adults would love this book too. I also loved this book. When I was growing up, I read this wonderful book called Let's Do a Play by Uma Anand, published by National Book Trust. Moin and the Monster, by the way, is published by Duckbill, who's the publisher of the Queen series, which is basically Penguin Random House's it's part of Penguin Random House. Let's Do a Play is published by National Book Trust, and it's about this group of Indian children, and that was, for me, growing up, there weren't that many Indian writers then. So this is so lovely for me to read because, I was relating to something that was very true to what I was living. And these children decide to stage a play. And how they go about it, how do you stage that play, how did they rehearse, how did they act, what are their friendships and their fighting and the quarreling. And it's a lovely book. So I think everybody should read that. Then I would also say Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. I think everybody knows this book or should know about this book. It teaches empathy and kindness, the importance of kindness. I think it's a very important book for children to read. Then I would say I also loved this book called A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. Now this is for both young adults and for adults, and I think pehli baar mein usme I read about death, when I was growing up, and how do children deal with that, and that's something that a lot of us have to deal with, these serious topics. And it's a beautiful story about a girl growing up and what she feels, as I think it starts when she's around 8 or 10, and then it just goes on till she's about 17, and it just shows you what, the friendship she makes, how she goes through school, kya hota hai uske saath. It's a beautifully written book. One more book, I would say, again, I'm deliberately keeping it for young kids. I know a lot of children don't read Enid Blyton these days. Of course, her famous 5 series is very well known and all that. But my personal favorite was a book called The Six Bad Boys, written by Enid Blyton. I think it should be available in libraries. It's basically 6 children from different backgrounds,
Okay.
and how your background influences who you are, and they come together as friends, and it's a very very powerful book that just shows you कि किस family से आप आ रहे हो, कैसे वो family का माहौल कैसा है, कैसे वो influences फिर आ जाते हैं उसमें, तो personality में, how this can shape you as a going forward. So these are, I think, 5 books. I can of course tell you 1000 more, but we will have to have this radio show going on forever.
One last question.
Yes.
Out of all these books, which one was the most fun to write? I know you love it all, you had fun with all, but the most, or there's something memorable attached to it?
This is a bit like asking a mother, like, who is your favorite child? Whose
that's
company
why
do you
I
enjoy
mentioned
the
I
most?
know you love it
Because
all.
each book of mine is really special. There's something or the other associated with each one of them. I would say 2, maybe. I started Queen of Ice because Queen of Ice is this book that it's about this 10th century Queen of Kashmir called Didda, who was lame, who couldn't walk, but who ruled Kashmir for around 50 years in the 10th century, facing a lot of obstacles, but she was able to. She was a very powerful woman, and she managed to rule. A lot of drama in her life with all the men around her trying to get her off the throne, but that's her story. And I think for the first time, I was trying to bring my interest of history in and English and my research work all into one work. I would also say this book is very special to me, The Train to Tangier. It's for middle graders. It's part of the Songs of Freedom series published by Duckbill Penguin Random House, and it's about children who are involved with the Indian independence struggle at some point or the other. So this book is actually based on my father's experiences during the Quit India movement and what he did as a child to contribute to that movement. And this was in Tanjore or Tanjavur in the south. So, it's a bit of my heritage as well. It's a bit of all the stories that he told me when I was growing up, कि ये होता था जब मैं छोटा था, ये and वो सब, तो वो सब मिला के I've just written. I think these are 2 of my favorite books.
Wow. So on this World Book Day, is there anything you want to tell our listeners? And how can they include reading in their hobbies or in their day-to-day activities? Because even the adults are not reading that much because phones.
I would say that reading is a life skill that is as essential as, I would say, even breathing. You don't forget to breathe or to eat your food, and I think you need to find time in your routine for reading. You will see the difference. Find the book that is written for you. Everybody has different interests. ये मत बोलना कि my friend likes to read about sports, मुझे तो बिल्कुल interest नहीं है. That means you might like something else. So find what is right for you to read and read that, and you will see the difference that it makes to your life, the way you think, the way you behave with other people, the way you understand the world. You will find it making a difference, because reading always affects the reader in a very very positive way, and I think we all need to find our way back to it. And I think all parents, all grown-ups, all librarians, all teachers, anybody associated with children should make sure that they open this wonderful world of books to the children with them and show them how wonderful, how critical, how useful, and how completely life-changing reading can be.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Devika,
Thank
for
you,
giving us your
Tanisha.
time and your words of wisdom. And I really hope that everybody who's watching this and listening to this gets inspired and start to read. Pick a book right now.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. It's been a real honor being on this show, and I enjoyed myself.
Thank you.